Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. Sorry this isn't a review of Dr. Sleep, but we started to try to do that, and then it got pushed, and then it was 4 weeks since anyone had watched the movie.
If anyone wants to know our take on Dr. Sleep, I for one will say it's a very good way to take a nap.
Oh, yikes.
It's not false advertising.
Oh man. I don't think I could take a nap during that. It's a little too scary. Anyway, this is not a review of Dr. Sleep. We're abandoning Dr. Sleep, and we're going to a Geeky Gentleman theme month that kind of just happened spur of the moment, out of discussion in the Geeky Gentleman group chat in between the various dick pics that we send each other to check to make sure that it's tasteful enough. And so we decided to do an entire month dedicated to Wonder Woman, because she bae. Wonder Woman bae. Anyway, so we started with a pick Alfie made, which is what, Alfie?
In this, the start, I mean, you gotta do it a little bit more pomp and circumstance. I'm not having to say, beginning the Geeky Gentleman month of Wonder. Okay, there we go. Gotta make sure. Got a bit of flash. We are doing Wonder Woman Dead Earth, the Black Label book that came out last year. I only wanted to choose this for the idea that it was a Black Label Wonder Woman book, and kind of, although it when it first came out, it got a lot of press, but then it kind of no one talks about it anymore. It kind of swept under the radar. And the premise of it is not like any other Wonder Woman story. And there was some stuff in it that didn't look very good, but there was some stuff in it that looked interesting. So I was just infinitely curious about this book. I wanted to talk about it. I wanted an excuse to check it out, because this would be my first time reading it. So I decided to pick that one because we need Wonder Woman topics, and there's not a lot of discussion on Wonder Woman Dead Earth. Maybe for certain reasons, maybe not. We shall see.
So I hated this.
Yep, same. This was terrible.
Alfie, what'd you think?
I didn't hate it. I didn't like it, but it didn't elicit hate from me. But I didn't like it. Yeah, I agree. I think this is very good.
Yeah, this was a bad time. I remember I reviewed the at least the first issue. I don't remember if I ever got to the second issue. I remember talking about the first issue on Comic Reviews. I'm like, okay, so this is where you talk about the thing where it's fine to take a character that is essentially positive and put them into a dark story. That's a fine thing to do, and honestly it should be done more if you can handle it well. The important thing is to not make the character dark, but to just show their optimism through the worst possible circumstances. So Wonder Woman waking up in a post-apocalyptic wasteland where the refuges of humanity are far and few between. Perfectly fine premise. And even the issue, the first issue, she is still Wonder Woman, which I thought was surprising, because premise alone, I'm like, I don't think these people are gonna get it. She's doing Wonder Woman talking points, she has that great scene about I love you even though you've betrayed me kind of thing. I'm so there for all of that. Like even if she is a little too quick to murder, it's like, you know, they're big drooly monsters that are like right in the middle of attacking people, so it's at least acceptable. Plus it's Black Label, so you kind of expect it to some point. And then the book keeps going, and just every chapter got worse. It started out on rocky ground for me, and then it just got progressively worse. Chapter 2. Oh, Wonder Woman's been killing mutated Amazons who've been sent to the world to just murder the shit out of the last remnants of humanity for revenge. Chapter 3. Oh yeah, Wonder Woman caused the entire world to be destroyed in a brawl with Superman after her island got nuked. So it's not like it even saved the island or anything, it just was a fucking blood feud. Chapter 4, Wonder Woman genocides the Amazons. Just fuck. It's so bad. Alfie, what'd you think of the of Superman's skull and spinal cord being used as a fucking weapon?
I was like, I was just kind of at that point. I was like, what are we doing? like, it's because like, I don't get the point of it. Like, I don't get how, because she wraps it around the lasso of truth, right? Mm-hmm. But how is that more useful than a lasso of truth? like that's.
Well, I mean, it's just it's completely unbreakable and it looks super metal.
Like, isn't the lasso of truth already like completely unbreakable? And it's like a lasso. Like you type.
Yeah, but now it's got teeth and a bludgeoning object on the end of it.
I guess, but like I was kind of dumbfounded by that, but also just like, I mean, at least he's being featured. Like, at this point, with Superman Black Label, like, my only choices seem to be Skull Mace or Frank Miller. So, like, I'll take what I could, like, oh, you know what? At least he's, like, kind of in character in what we see in this. Like, he's kind of not. He's kind of a fucking dumbass, but, you know, it's not offensively bad because he's only in it for so much and then just dies. He gets spared, I suppose.
It doesn't have time to be as bad as opposed to 4 issues to just get progressively worse.
So, no, the Superman stuff in this I thought was fine. I did like the I think Scott Snyder did this better because again it's really funny that 2 Black Label post-apocalyptic books came out and they both have Earth in like they both have like dead worlds kind of thing and people travel like this very Mad Max superheroes. Like Scott Snyder did his Batman last night.
Right.
And there's a good scene in that as well where like Superman's gone and so there's like people do pilgrimages to the Fortress of Solitude. And I think
that's funny that both use the idea.
Yeah, it's a really cool idea. Like it's a cool idea for a post-apocalyptic DC. Like of course that's what that would happen. It would become like a religious monument. So I like that idea. I think it's done better in Snyder's work. But like just the concept here, and because these two were done so close together, I know there was very little. I imagine there was no dialogue between those two. It was a funny little coincidence that just kind of it seems to be like a constant. So I like that. But yeah, other than that, Superman stuff not very important. Is illicit of a what the fuck, but that's about it. Like there's nothing much to say elsewhere.
How about you, Steve? What is your deep thoughts on Dead Earth?
It's pretty terrible. It's just the Superman skull scene is honestly the one where I feel like okay, I legitimately hate this book. Because there's that moment and it's just indicative of the entire series where there's the moment where she sees his dead body, and she like apologizes for what happened. It's very mournful. It's very sad. It's like this nice elongated panel where it's just like hanging on the moment and the horror of the scene, and then immediately changes to her ripping his skull and spine out of the dead body. Where like I don't know on what level someone could think to put that sincere moment stacked right behind the scene where she violently rips his head out of his dead body. Like it's just kind of nonsensical. And again, it's not even practical. It's just a matter of looking cool. My biggest problem,
which it doesn't. It looks fucking stupid.
My biggest problem with this book, and this characterization of Wonder Woman is like it's a really consistent theme with Wonder Woman, which is just we're not allowing a powerful character to just be powerful as an afterthought to the greater, more important elements of the story. This is like a thing that happens everywhere in media when it comes to like centering a female character that is important and powerful, which is just we can't let Wonder Woman be who she is. We can't let her be this powerful symbol of hope and peace. We have to like bring her down to in a sense to something dirtier and grimier, and we have to like provide a point where she becomes more powerful or make the power the object of the plot. And it was a real shame because the early bits in the first issue where Hippolyta's going over her origin story and the way Hippolyta's scenes are cut in the first two issues, where it feels a little bit more Greek and mythic, where it feels a little bit more like Wonder Woman is almost this not necessarily Christ-like figure, but like certainly this sort of like redeemer for the Amazons, where there's just like there's all of this hope and all of this pressure and all of this idealism imbued and crafted into this one very powerful woman. And the beautiful thing about her is that she doesn't break under the pressure. She embodies all of it with grace, and that's what makes her so appealing. That's what makes her even more appealing, I think, to a certain degree than Superman, which is just Superman feels very godly and very fatherly, but Wonder Woman feels very loving. And she doesn't feel like at the end of the day that she's judging you for anything. She feels just like a avatar of a forgiving, submissive loveliness, which is always helpful and is sorely needed, especially when everyone's just like raging on the internet all the time. Like it's a deeply optimistic thing. But they keep giving her those moments stacked constantly next to moments where she's just being violent for no reason. And then instead of just letting her be that, it had to factor into the plot in a way that I just didn't think was necessary. Like the fact that Batman somehow siphoned off most of her powers and then gave it back to her later in a box. All of that stuff just felt random and pointless to me. The only thing about the book that I think legitimately was good beginning to end is I think the art and the paneling is really good and really interesting. It doesn't look like a usual DC book, not even a Black Label book. I don't like Wonder Woman's design. I think she looks a little bit too much like a teenage girl. But otherwise, I think the art's really good.
Yeah, I think the art's interesting. I guess the problem I have with it, like, I like that it's kind of, that purposeful ugliness, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's impossible not to go back to him. It's got like that Miller ugliness to it, which I think is good, but I think that's really weird because then when we get flashback scenes, particularly to her as a girl or to her in better times, it's still just as fugly. And I think that there's like a dissonance there. Like, it doesn't have to do a complete 180. It's not like you want to bring in a different artist to present those times, but just those times shouldn't look as bleak and dour as the current circumstances, Yeah. So there's a dissonance there that I kind of picked up on. But yeah, I will agree. The art's pretty cool. I'd like to see this artist, I forget the name, I apologize, but I'd like to see this artist do some like Kaiju, Godzilla books, stuff like that, because the monster work is really, really cool. It's just infuriating.
I feel like he would make a legitimately good artist for an ongoing Wonder Woman book. I think the style's cool and interesting, and the writer and artist is the same person, which is neat. So It's interesting that this is like in totality this one person's vision of who Wonder Woman should be, which you don't get a lot of even in Black Label. It's always more of a collaborative thing, but it's interesting when DC lets one person have the entire reins for one of their biggest characters like this. Like on a level of practice, that's kind of cool. It just sucks. So.
Yeah, no. I mean, like, I will say I like they seem to have a better understanding of who Wonder Woman is or what she should be than most writers. Or than most bad Wonder Woman stories, I guess. Like, the problem here isn't that like Wonder Woman's not the murder princess here. In that she at least feels bad about what she's doing. We kind of run into the Man of Steel thing here where it's like, yeah, I guess she doesn't really have any other choice but to genocide the Amazons, but like, you probably shouldn't write the book where that's her only choice, you know? Like, she feels bad about it. She's not like a murder-happy, battle-hungry, crazy person. She's genuinely wants there to be peace. She just is incapable of making it happen, which is at least a fresh problem for a Wonder Woman story. Like, there's that great Gail Simone quote of like, you know, don't kill if you can wound, don't wound if you can disarm, don't disarm until if you can do this, don't even raise a hand in the fist until you've extended it as in a shake first. Like, I really like that as like a core tenet of who Wonder Woman is and what the Amazonian philosophy is. And there's pieces of that here. So this writer definitely has a better sense of who Wonder Woman should be. It's just the story they're telling doesn't work with that, which is disappointing because, again, I feel like the premise of Wonder Woman in a post-apocalyptic wasteland where society has collapsed, yada yada, that's like the best kind of place to put Wonder Woman, in a way, because then you've got this chance for her to rebuild society without having to tear the old one down, which has always been kind of like an awkward thing to talk about, with Wonder Woman as a revolutionary figure that kind of scares a lot of people. So this is maybe an interesting vehicle for her if you put Wonder Woman, who is, you know, immortal, into a post-apocalyptic world. Then suddenly she's got a better chance of rebuilding the world as it should be. It's just there's so much that goes terribly, terribly wrong in the execution of this. Particularly with Hippolyta. I think it's very evident they're going with the, you know, rape of Hippolyta background here, even though they don't ever directly say that. It's heavily implied, given the way that Hippolyta talks about the Amazon's past. But, like, she's just, like, incredibly vengeful from the beginning. Like, you almost get the sense that she's, like, kind of glad that they got nuked, you know? Because she's just so ready for kind of, like, looking for an excuse to declare war, in a way. Particularly with the way she talks about Diana needs every ounce of strength to take on the world. Like, she's really designed Diana as a weapon, and I don't even necessarily have a problem with that. It's just, then you can do that, and then Diana has to be better than even her mother, and overcome being a weapon. And instead we just get Diana being a weapon, and kind of a shit one that blows up in your face. I mean, I guess I could make like a gag comic of this using some Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny, you know, carrot in the shotgun kind of.
Oh boy. Well, I think the strength of that, at least, I think, and where I do think you're on the money, Ian, when you said that this writer still understands Wonder Woman on a level that a lot of lesser ones don't, is like, even when executed really badly, the fundamental tenets of Wonder Woman still make it much better than it would be otherwise. Like, yeah, the execution of, like, the idea of weapons, like, but it also just shows you, like, how good and potent the origin of Clay actually is. Like, because it's still kind of interesting. Like, there's still like a kernel of a good idea there, of like even with that origin, is like people always try and put it like, you have to do the Zeus thing or you have to do the origin of Clay. I'm just like, what I like about this is it's still not that exactly, because they add the new detail of, like, they got all the gods drunk, and it wasn't a willing thing from the gods to donate to Diana. Like, it was like Hippolyta stole it, and I kind of like that. I kind of like that Hippolyta, like, because there's always the thing of, like, Hippolyta created this child on her own, but there's still always, like, the prayer thing. be it to the female gods, or like the lesser ones, also like the male Zeus involved and stuff like that. But I like the idea that Hippolyta fundamentally does everything by herself. Like I think that's cool. I like that for a different take, especially like again if we even if we didn't lean into the weapon thing, I like the idea of like Hippolyta making this child of her just entirely by one woman creating another woman. I think that's got like a really nice symmetry and nice beauty to it. Oh, and even like again the fact that we don't have Murder Princess Wonder Woman, even though we've got really violent, like crazy scenes of Wonder Woman killing things here. The fact that she still feels bad about it and she still tries to offer a hand and something makes this better than it would be. Because if this had been like Murder Princess Wonder Woman in the apocalypse, doesn't give a fuck, daughter of Zeus, whose power is unleashed on the Amazons, like then this would be like one of the worst like it'd just be unsalvageable. But the fact that I think it kind of in it with almost unintentionally, it kind of proves the merits of like the good Wonder Woman shit of like don't worry guys, if you're not confident, just do these things and it will still be at least like better than it would have been otherwise. I think that was really funny. But like
it's like a D- instead of an F, you know?
It's like as long as you've got your intro paragraph and your conclusion, like you're fine.
Yeah, as long as you appreciate as long as you have the premise, you can't actually fail. So.
Yeah, no, there's a lot about this that like. All right, so ignoring the problems with like the characterization of Wonder Woman and stuff. Let's just talk about the story itself. So, Wonder Woman wakes up in the apocalypse, and she wants to start trying to help humanity, but she doesn't really remember the situations that led to said apocalypse. So she wants to take humanity to Themyscira because even if some terrible thing happened to the whole world, Themyscira will be fine. Oh boy. Then they go there and they find out that Themyscira is kind of the source of all these horrendously mutated monsters that are really the Amazons plaguing the world. And they've been sent by Hippolyta. So then Wonder Woman goes and goes to the Fortress of Solitude to try to find answers and gets them from a Superman robot that the Amazons declared war on Earth because humanity had caused too much pollution and global warming, which I thought was actually a really cool idea that global warming is the thing because Themyscira is an island. I legitimately liked that. Is like the key threat to Themyscira is global warming and sea level rise. That was smart. Anyway, so they, the Amazons declared war on humanity. Humanity launched all the nukes at once directly at Themyscira. Wonder Woman took off her bracelets to completely unleash her power and stop all of the nukes. And she missed, I guess, one question mark. And then once she saw the damage that it did to her island and Superman showed up just a minute later, he's like, oh, they launched everything and something happened to Smallville. I'm like, what? They launched one at Smallville? Why?
No, so what happened with that is they say they launched the nukes at Themyscira, but Themyscira has magical defenses that send some of them like careening off, like on the like they send them like flying, like they change the direction and stuff for them. Which is weird because you have an explanation, but then okay, so where's the danger? Like, but how do you get through that through numbers if that's just magic? Like, how does like, oh yeah, we capped it out at 10. like that's just weird, but okay, we'll go with it. So like, the idea is that some of the nukes went off, and then Superman went to deal with those, and some of the other the other Justice League members tried to do all of that, and that's how some of them died as well. But then Wonder Woman stayed, and that's why Superman wasn't at Themyscira because he went and stopped the Smallville war.
Okay, so anyway, so Superman shows up and Wonder Woman's just really mad, so she starts fighting him, and she's also got kind of like the power unleashed madness going on during the fight. And so Wonder Woman versus Superman is a battle that completely Like, it's not the nukes that eradicate the planet. It's the battle of Superman and Wonder Woman. So power scalars, write that one down. And in the fight ends with Wonder Woman shoving kryptonite into Superman's fucking gut. God damn it. And then what happens? She just passes out?
Yeah, she just pukes,
Yeah.
and then, like, they say, like, because the fight and everything drained her reserves, it just, like, like, she kind of clocked out, kind of thing. She exudes all her stamina gauge, like, it just unleashed all,
Okay.
and then ran out. Yeah, so that's kind of when, like, you've passed out unconscious until you can regain, like, food, kind of thing.
All right, so then at that point, because the world's over, Batman puts Wonder Woman in stasis, somehow, without explanation, zapping away her powers, or most of her powers, and locking them in a little box to be used at a later date. Gives the box to a Superman robot, puts the pod that he's sealed Wonder Woman in his Batcave in the basement, then goes upstairs to Wayne Manor and dies. The most Batman ending, surely. Years later, they go to the Fortress of Solitude. They find all this out. Fucking. Then the Amazons decide they're all going to attack the last refuge of humanity. And then fucking Wonder Woman kills all the Amazons except for Hippolyta because she's one of two that still looks somewhat human, question mark. The end? That's...
So
guess.
I want to know, and this is just going to be the hill I die on for the rest of my life, I guess. But what I want to know is, why was this writer not canceled for making Wonder Woman a genocidal maniac war criminal, question mark? Because if Tom King wrote this book, we'd be canceling him off really, really hardcore.
Oh, yes.
I don't understand how this book came out and flew under everyone's radar, given what
Because no one gives a shit about Wonder Woman?
I guess.
Then
That's
again, no one
exactly
gives a
why.
shit about Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Or not Doctor Strange. Exactly. No one gives a shit about Adam Strange. So,
about that.
Tom King's...
People are more mad about that than they are about this, and this is way worse.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know, Tom King's more high profile?
That's exactly it. It's just, again, we've kind of talked about this before, but the moment you become a name in comic books, like the moment, the reason that Tom King's career has gone the way it is, not his career is doing fine, but like the fan perception of him, is because he wrote at Batman and he wrote an event comic. And it's the exact, like, if Bendis had just stayed on Daredevil and Alias, no one would hate Bendis the same way. It's like, the moment you do that, you become in the fan vernacular, and you can never escape. It's like, if Alan Moore got to write Twilight of the Superheroes the way he wanted, that big DC event book, people would talk about Alan Moore the same way they talk about Tom King. Like, it's just, it's exactly the only difference is if you write if the moment you write an event book and you become a name, that's the change. That's all it is. It's never about quality. It's never about fake. It's just a name and then out of context panels you can post on Twitter.
So to get to my actual point, and not just my digs because Tom King is great and I don't care what anyone says, but get to my actual point though. There's something interesting about this book where you're right, the premise of Wonder Woman, who's technically an immortal, being at the end of the world is significantly more interesting to me than any other end of the world post-apocalyptic books, because I'm not a fan of the post-apocalypse. I think it's boring. It's just not my setting. But you're right.
Yeah, no, I just die.
Yeah,
if I fucking survive the apocalypse and everything, I'm just fucking, nah, thanks.
That's
out.
literally my mentality. It's like, if society has collapsed, I'm just gonna kill myself. There's no fucking point. But, and I mean, it's not saying much because I'd kill myself anyway. But the Wonder Woman thing makes it inherently more interesting because this is a character that is all about showing an alternative way to live that is more peaceful and putting her in a circumstance where that's least likely. Everything Wonder Woman strives for in humanity is at its worst possible point in this situation. So cool, that's interesting. That's conflict. And I even liked up to the end of the first issue where the idea was Wonder Woman's going to take the last refuge of humanity, take them to Themyscira, where surely nothing bad could have happened, and raise them to live again and to form a society. And I liked the ingrained idea that maybe this is a way we haven't seen Diana before. Maybe the idea here is she becomes not just someone who's trying to stop conflict, but someone that has to like actually lead people, and someone that has to like figure out how to calm down conflicts and stuff in a way she never has before, because she's dealing with a generation of people so far removed from civilized society that her message just doesn't make sense to them. I think that's all really good and really interesting. And then instead of doing any of that, instead of diving into any of the cool inherent stuff you built in there, you go this weird post-apocalyptic direction where you kind of lose base with the message, where the vengeful Hippolyta is not inherently a bad thing. You can make it work. I like some of the origin changes too that Alfie pointed out. But you start circling this drain of just making this entire problem spin out of control in a way where even if you are writing the hopeful Wonder Woman, that is fundamentally at odds with what's literally happening. And to not give like a proper sort of connective tissue between the Wonder Woman that we are watching, who is more loving and hopeful, to the Wonder Woman that murdered Superman and destroyed the entire world, like to not bridge that gap.
But Alfie, she just forgot. It's fine. she forgot, Alfie. It's sorry, she forgot, Steve. It's fine. It's all just a big slipped my mind.
That's the thing where it sort of feels like I can't really take what she's going through on an emotional level seriously if she's just gonna like flip a coin like this.
Mm-hmm. No, that is such a strange choice to just have her. Whoops! Hot dog. Because like it's just there's no reason really for her to forget. Like at least not like it. At least not until the point that she took off the bracelets, you know? Like, there's no reason for her to forget anything before that. Like, you say, okay, she took off the bracelets, she stopped a bunch of nukes, but not enough, and then she fought Superman in a just blind berserk rage. And then she passed out and woke up, 150, 200 years later. Okay. Fine. Like, I could believe she'd forget everything until she took off the bracelets. How the fuck does she not remember everything before that? There's no explanation. That, again, there's just, like... Even ignoring it, like, as a Wonder Woman fan, even ignoring the stuff that kind of breaks her character, there's just odd choices that don't make any sense to me in here. Like, what does she do for D that proves to D she's worth giving her powers back to? And then the answer is nothing. It's just D doesn't have any other better choices. So why the fuck put that in there anyway?
And that's the other thing, right? Because like there's a way to construct that scene that's actually kind of beautiful and great, because the idea could be that like, look, that D doesn't have any reason to trust Wonder Woman, and that's okay, and she's putting it on faith that Wonder Woman is trustworthy, and that's what loving a person is. It is allowing yourself to trust even if there's no reason to trust. But no, they don't say that. That's not the message of the book. It's literally I don't have any other options, like verbatim that dialogue, and that's really dumb.
Like, also, there's a scene at the end of this that's really funny to me, because like she's got the one bracelet on that limits her powers. And it's like, will it work with just one? She goes, no. But I'm going to look for the other one. And in that time, I hope to prove myself as a protector of humanity again and redeem myself in humanity's eyes. But I need you, D, because you're the human insert character. I need you to say it's okay for me to do that. And I do kind of like that it ends on a vague thing where we don't really get an answer. I thought that was fine. But like, This is just one of those things where, like, you shouldn't put anything in your story where if you think about it for 10 seconds, it's a huge fucking problem. So, like, okay, I don't have both of the bracelets. I only have the one. So I'm going to look for the other. And that kind of sets up the idea of looking for the other across the world while trying to fix the world kind of thing as your sequel series. But, like, you took them off on Themyscira. You're on Themyscira. You presumably found one of them on Themyscira. Why wouldn't the other one still be on Themyscira? Like, it's just, you just gotta turn over some rocks, really. Like, when you get right down to it, it might be in the ocean. I'm sure you can fucking swim. Like, it's just, there's no reason that it would be halfway across the world, right? Like, it should just be on Themyscira.
Yeah, I think that's weird. That's a weird choice as well, and I think it would have been the choice you should do there is like, you do the thing where she doesn't find any of the bracelets, but she like makes new ones, and like, do they work? And then she says no, but it's a promise. Like, it's more symbolic at that point. Than, like, again, it's like the idea of like choosing submission, like love, like she is now submitting to the trust of the humans, and like it's not an actual magic limitation. It's a bond, and it's a promise, and that's what magic is meant to be anyway. Like, it's symbols and meaning. I think you could get a really powerful scene of that. Like, it's purely a gesture of good faith, but it's one that like really, like, it to Diana it means everything. She's literally putting herself in those bindings. The thing that weirds me about like the whole thing, right, is this all of this book is clearly meant to be trying to talk about the cycle of abuse and the abuse women feel, and like the victimization, kind of like the feelings of stuff that come from that, and inherently it's already kind of weirded by a dude writing it. Like you're already kind of like, well, you shouldn't be the one to do this. You can do a Wonder Woman story without trying to you be the guy who kind of mansplains the rape metaphor. Like you can do. I like when it's like we'll talk about it, but that's not my story to tell. I've got another story I'm interested to do. But like everything about this book, down from how Cheetah's portrayed to Dee, to how Diana's whole thing is she goes through a trauma that she then represses, and it weakens her until she remembers it and confronts it, and it's to do with a guy. It's all very like on the thing that they're all trying to do with abuse and what the responses to that are. The fact that we have a dude who leads a society who's very clearly meant to be, he says, I want to make him my wife, and like Cheetah talks about, like there's no there's never outright stated, but it's clear what this dude has been doing to people. And yeah, the whole book, Hippolyta.
Yeah, he ends up being one of the good guys.
Hippolyta's the person who is angry and unreasonable and blamed. Diana's the one who is angry and unreasonable and destroys the thing. Dee's the one who is angry and unreasonable. Cheetah's the one who is angry and reasonable. Like, Nubia is the one who is angry and reasonable. Nubia doesn't get no fucking love. Nubia's talking everything, but like, Wonder Woman doesn't give Nubia no the fucking to do. But then all of that we deal with. But then all the fucking dudes are like, Batman didn't trust Diana, but he has a laugh and he has a sip and looks out and dies of radiation in peace. Superman was just trying to help. Humanity is good, and you fucked up. The Amazons overreacted. Like, this whole book is like trying to like frame it as like, look how shittily we've treated these women and stuff. But like what it's actually saying is like, well, it's a good thing those fucking bras didn't get a chance, because, geez, we almost got extinct, man.
Dames.
Even to the thing of where, like, again, we do this a lot in, like, rape metaphor fiction, where, like, the woman is, after the result, she feels inhuman. Like, they are transformed into these monsters that aren't themselves. They don't think they're beautiful anymore. Like, they do that implicitly. And, like, it's not like no, you're still the Amazons. That's not you. Who you are is who you are. That don't let that define you. It's that, yeah, I guess they're right. Time to fucking kill them. Like, what the fuck? Like, what? You don't do that. That's really fucked up. You don't do the rape metaphor of the survivor who thinks they're inhuman and then agree with them. like Jesus.
See, like, I didn't even, you know, you ever hear someone, like, give a take, and then you're like, man, I'm fucking dumb. I didn't even pick up on that shit. Like, I picked up on the Hippolyta is the rape victim thing. Alfie, you're 100% right. I didn't pick up a goddamn thing on any of that, but you're 100% right.
Don't
like,
feel
that's
bad.
even more
You
fucked
went
up.
into this, like, whenever bad Wonder Woman shit happens, it's what happens with me with bad Superman stuff. Like, there's just, your mind just kind of goes on autopilot. Like, I understand.
Oh man, that is so fucked up. You're right. Like, and it's interesting because the art at times, like the way that, not so much the rest of the Amazons, they're just kind of generic monsters in my mind. Like, I didn't really notice anything about them that looked like particularly pointed, beyond the sharp pointy teeth. But like, there's an image, I think it's one of the covers or something, of Diana standing in front of Monster Hippolyta, and the way that Hippolyta's worm body is drawn is very like Gloria Steinem. It looks like a vagina. It looks like just a giant meaty vagina is surrounding Wonder Woman, and I'm like, that's pointed. Okay. Like, I'm not sure what you're trying to say there, but it's scary, I guess.
It's very Geiger, like the imagery of like the mother and like to the most like primal. Again, and I think a lot of that, like Steve, you said earlier about like how this book is the illustration and stuff like this. Like, the book is, it's like ugly, but it's ugly in like a beautiful way. Like, it's garish in a way where like you can look at the details and like the things and like see like the beauty in it, and like in like the forms and like the creatures and like how the action is framed and stuff like that. Like, I actually do agree with you. I do think this would work for a regular take Wonder Woman as well, as like a more like high fantasy setting or something. Like the current book where like Ian, you show me like she's on Asgard now, is this art would fit like Norse mythology, Wonder Woman. This would fit that kind of like dark beauty of like just like everything's fucked, but we kind of like we have to just accept that and like find the goodness in it. I think that works. And there's some good artistic choice. Again, I do think there was thought put behind this, but thought to an extent, and that's almost more damaging than the rub, because like you all right, if you're going to talk about these issues, you have to make sure you actually know what you're talking about, or you put some respect on it. And like, it's not completely damning to the thing, because like you say, Ian, like if you're not looking for it, you can quite easily. It's not there. The average person who's going to read this will not pick stuff of that stuff up. So it's not an immediately damning thing to the book. You do kind of have to search out for it to see it. But once you do, you kind of can't get away from it. And if that's what the book is asking you to engage with, but it's not doing it in a way, in a Wonder Woman book of all things, that is celebrating femininity or embodying femininity or being vulnerable and open with a female perspective about what that means. It's all just kind of an excuse to have women just be angry and fight all the time and then apologize like afterwards, rather than like proving the act. And like the thing that came out to me as well is that scene with like Dee we talked about, where she only helps Diana through the desire, like it's the only option she has. Like all the instances in this book where Wonder Woman's like, oh yeah, I trust you and I believe you'll do the right thing. The only time anyone does the right thing is when it's the only choice they have. Like Cheetah as well. Like there's no instances in this of people just doing it for the reasons Diana's doing it, just out of love. Like they only do it because like, well, yeah, we're gonna die if we don't. Like, I don't know. I think that undercuts the message a bit. Like that's not.
It's pretty bad when like Green Lantern could just show back up right when Dee's about to hand to the boss. It's like, wait, different superhero. Never mind. Can you take care of this? Oh yeah, I got this.
No problem. Yeah,
and it just completely kills the story,
I just
right?
got back from the from Morrison Run, and I was just trying to check what they were doing with Wonder Woman. And like, Jesus, so I'm here to sort this out. That's why Hal goes at the end of the Green Lantern. Like, he came to here to sort this shit out. This is one of those like fucked up Earths in that book with the black stars.
Oh man, yeah. Yeah, it's a bad time. It's a bad time. I'm kind of glad this book flew under the radar. It's weird, right? Because when Black Label was announced, they announced a couple things with it. Superman Year One, Batman Damned. I'm pretty sure Harleen was announced right out the gate, if I'm not mistaken. There was a lot of Black Label titles announced, and one of those titles was Kelly Sue DeConnick's Wonder Woman. Which I haven't been current for a while, so it's possible I just missed the entire series. But like, that ever come out?
The Black Label one didn't. No.
Yeah.
No. Kelly Sue DeConnick's Wonder Woman never came out.
Right.
Okay. Wait, what?
Never mind, I got confused. Yeah, the Black Label one never came out.
Okay, did she get like put on a run or something?
I believe so. I remember the name of Wonder Woman, but I know what you're talking about, the Black Label thing as well. That might have got like jigged around,
repurposed
with 5G
for like the main book or something.
Yeah,
maybe, I don't know. Like I was waiting on that for the longest time. Then this hit the stand. I'm like, oh, that must be what this is, and I realized no, that's definitely not Kelly Sue DeConnick, and it doesn't match with like the preview art we got shown for that thing. So now I'm extra confused, and I got 2 issues into this, and again, I got to the oh, we are the monsters, and you've been killing your sisters. I'm like, no, okay, I'm good, thanks. Yep, I'm out. And that's when I stopped buying the issues. So I reread 2 issues for this, and I had the DC app for the other 2. But yeah, I'm kind of glad this flew under the radar, and no one's talking about it, because it's a pretty bad book.
For slight update, it looks like the last time we heard of Kelly Sue DeConnick's Wonder Woman Black Label book, it was in March of last year, and it was supposed to be called Wonder Woman Historia: The Amazons. And
yeah, March
definitely
24th.
not come out.
Yeah, March 24th, 2020 was the last time that the tweet of the artist. I just had a look from Phil Jimenez. But nothing else has come out since from that. I doubt it might be dead, but we don't know. These things kind of get stealth dropped. Like Wonder Woman Earth 1 book 3 got stealth dropped basically. So like I have no idea with these Black Label things. Like they're very bad at like generating hype for them. They just kind of release them.
I remember I was very, very hyped when I heard we were getting a Vic Sage Black Label OGN, and then it came out, and it's been out for like 2 or 3 years, and I still haven't read it. But anyway, I'll try to say some nice things here and there, just for the sake of it. I mentioned before, I do like the art, I do like the paneling, but in particular, the coloring in the flashback scenes with Hippolyta and the flashback scenes with Superman, I think are really nice. I like the way this guy draws Superman a lot. I think he doesn't have like just the straight up underwear on his costume. They're almost like the old school boxers, which is kind of cool. And it's got like just this nice, bright and vibrant feel. And the way he draws Superman, it's not like some of the more like modern idealized Supermans where he just kind of looks like almost like a dopey pretty boy, not in a bad way, but just kind of like an aw shucks kind of pretty boy. Like in this one, he does sort of look a little bit more like gruff but handsome and concerned. I think he's got more range of emotion, which is nice. It doesn't help that in the Wonder Woman fight, he's basically doing Looney Tune expressions as he's getting his face pummeled in. But in general, I think that art's pretty nice. And this does something I've noticed in a lot of indie books lately, which is just instead of having like a strict panel grid that every page follows, they kind of go back and forth between like big boxed splash pages with bleeding panels over it versus other pages where there are some normal size panels and then a ton of tiny panels in a row and then back to some bigger panels. It sort of creates this sort of fluid motion of time that's just a little bit different. It kind of stops you and forces you to look at things in a slightly slower way, which is just nice because you don't normally get to see that kind of like experimentation and creativity with just like mainstream superhero books, and definitely not in like oversized prestige one shots that are supposed to be very formal and rigid. So I just thought that was nice, and that's kind of all I got for nice things.
I like the vagueness of the ending. I liked the intentional kind of grimness of the art. I liked the first issue by and large. Yes, that's all I got.
The scene where Diana takes off the bracelets and is hitting the nukes. That's some Dragon Ball Z shit where she's just like waving her arms in directions and you just see lines blowing up the nukes.
What's the crazy small nitpick on this, right? Kind of power scalar for fun here, guys. Am I right? Okay, let's break down this feat. Something that doesn't make sense. All right. So like they hype up Wonder Woman in this book, right? Of like, she's got all the blood from all the gods, and she's like designed to be this weapon. And, like, the bracelets are put on her because she's too powerful. Like, she's ungodly powerful version of Wonder Woman that you've never seen. And then
no, very godly though.
Yeah.
Not ungodly, very godly.
Above godly, I should say. Like even further beyond God. Wonder Woman God evolution. Like I just like that level of thing. But like we have Wonder Woman do this thing, but then you get that build up, and then the first time she takes off the bracelets, she can't do the thing. like that's not like it's like oh, Wonder Woman's gonna like she's unleash all of her power and she still doesn't do it. Like it's like that's like
we had to try.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like she's any stronger. Like she just feels like regular Wonder Woman. Like I guess what's the difference? And then like she fights Superman, and in the Superman scene, it's like okay, you can feel like she's this powerful because like they show that the entire Earth just gets fucking destroyed by it. But I'm like, okay, so if they can go fast enough around the entire Earth to destroy and fight Superman and like wipe out humanity almost in like a fucking like how it's presented, it's like it's happening in like a couple seconds because they're moving so fast, and that's why Wonder Woman didn't have time to compose herself because she's fighting at such speed. If it is longer than that, then it's stupid because then why is she still so angry if it's like a fucking minute of fighting or something? But like that happens. So you're telling me she could destroy the Earth but can't stop nukes? Like, one of these things seems harder than the other, but is that just me?
I get what you mean. It is sort of this weird thing where like we keep getting hyped up to this idea that Diana's like way more powerful than she's ever been, but because of one, just the actual situations where she is shown to be more powerful being anticlimactic like you point out, but also just the scenes where she's clearly supposed to be not as powerful, still doing like weird, violent shit. It makes it really hard in my mind to scale like what exactly is stronger or weaker about her. So like, okay, she gets her ass kicked by Cheetah, but she wasn't really fighting there, so whatever. But so much of this book is like her like decapitating monsters and cutting off people's hands and shit, and she's weaker. But she seems like more savage and more successful in that state than she did in both scenes with her full power.
And I think that's a problem, even outside of like again like the joke of like the power scaling doesn't make sense. Like the actual problem here is this story is about power and like the consequences of power, and like it's very integral to like the misuse of it and like the trust we put into people who have power, and like again like the whole idea of being powerless and like being afraid that the parent being scared for their daughter going out into the world and going to hurt them, so they try their best to prepare them, and it still like hurts them, betrayal. Like, all of that is to do with like power. But if you have that message and then the art betrays that by having, when she's meant to be vulnerable and weak, she's like fucking killing people, like killing monsters and like doing Conan the Barbarian and looking empowered and strong, and then when she actually is meant to be unleashed, it's like that's the one when she is actually getting her ass kicked the most. She's failing more when she does that. Like it's a very you're not showing. You're not communicating what you're meant to be doing here with the art. Like, there's an at odds between the intention of what the story is trying to do and what the art wants to do. It's like I want to show Diana vulnerable and weakened, and then show her at her most apex powerful to show why she was brought so low and why she needs to be forgiven. But the art says, no, she's cool no matter. Like she's just badass. Like it's fine. There's a dissonance there that is the real issue. Outside of like this doesn't make sense. She should be faster. And that's just me being silly. But like the actual problem is if you're writing a story about power, it's very important that you portray it in a way that the audience understands it.
Well, and that dissonance is really deep though. Like it's not even necessarily a matter of like the writing is saying one thing, the art's another. There are even like moments where the art itself seems like it's saying two very separate things. Like you'll have a scene where, and I literally just opened up to this. So there's a point in this issue 4 where she's riding on Pegasus, and the dialogue is "Forgive me, sister," and she's like looking really mournful and sad. But it's this really long panel where she's looking really mournful and sad, where 2/3 of the panel is her holding Superman's spine and skull with all the dead hairs on top of it. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to feel with looking at that.
Conflicted? Alright, so I want to talk about two things. One's just stupid and silly, and it's a thought that Alpha gave me when he was talking about, like, the stopping all the nukes, going further beyond, yada yada. So, like, I imagine, like, Ultra Instinct Goku he's like, Goku, the island's about to be attacked. He goes Ultra Instinct, goes up there, and he dodges all the nukes. Ha! Not one hit me. And then he just looks behind him, and the island's just fucking...
Gotta get the Dragon Balls! The good thing about that is, though, you could actually buy that as a gag in Dragon Ball, and that would work, because the consequences you can undo. That's actually really funny.
Yeah, okay, so anyway, that's a stupid thing. The other thing that's occurred to me, and it's just really weird, is by the end of this story, you have Wonder Woman who needs to be redeemed in the eyes of humanity. You have Wonder Woman who needs to be forgiven for her crime of, oopsie-doopsie, I genocided you. And I think that's, like, just probably the worst part about the book to me. The idea of putting the character who is meant to be this ambassador of peace, meant to show a better way of life and stuff, to strip her of her powers literally throughout the entire book is honestly less bad than to give her all her power back at the end of it, but put her in a place where she is now indebted in a way, where she is now a horrible criminal in a lot of ways, but she's the only one that can help now. I think that's kind of more perverse and sick to me than I think anything else in this book was, because it's just, you're taking the character that had the philosophy that was going to save the world, and now you've made that, you've kind of invalidated that philosophy. So again, yeah, the book has elements that are good. The book doesn't go for full-on murder princess, but in framing her as the one with the way to save the world, it makes the way that she ends up, it makes her path forward by the end of this series a lot more invalid than even Murder Princess Wonder Woman. Because, like, I don't know, I kind of shrug my shoulders at Murder Princess. Aha, yes, a fight. Like Klingon Wonder Woman, Like, that's Worf was writing that chapter that day or something. I kind of just shrugged my shoulders and I'm like, okay, well, this person just doesn't get it. This one, I'm in this weird place with this writer's perspective on Wonder Woman where I'm like, I feel like they just know what to parrot as opposed to actually understand the character and understand the implications of what they're doing with her. That's kind of where I'm coming down on the more I think about this book, the more we've talked about it, is like, I don't think that they necessarily get the take that I'd prefer. I think they just know what people praise, and they cherry picked good things for her to say. Like, you know, the "I love you even though you betrayed me" thing. That's basically parodying the best line from Azzarello's run. "I love everyone, even you." Like that's what that is. It's just a you know, Alfie, when you and I like sometimes rework a line that we really like as like a nod or something, but it's like it's just directly a pull at that point. And so I don't know. I felt like really kind of about this. The more I've thought about it, the more I'm like, the way that they leave her in the end as this indebted figure really bugs me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's when you add up the rape metaphor that Alfie's talking about with what you're saying about her being indebted when she's at her most powerful, it paints this very troublesome picture of we can't just let her be powerful. We have to, on some level, keep her down a peg. And we can't let her like really overcome her guilt or her actions and move past them, or even just like give you like a hopeful step forward in that direction. Instead, we have to say that it sort of becomes bound to who she is. And I mean, this is a fundamental problem with a lot of fiction that tries to talk about trauma, which is it, instead of trying to help you create a process to deal with what you've done, it instead too often makes your identity bound to the trauma itself, where you are forever labeled this thing. And this is the problem with a lot of poorly written angsty characters that just end up having their personality is that they're a bad person, or their personality is that they've done the terrible thing. This doesn't go quite that far and quite that literal, but it's walking that line where her actions have now defined her in a really profound way. And when you make those actions a metaphor for a traumatizing thing like rape, then it just becomes very, very sticky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. The more I, like, you know, I was being a little bit facetious when we started talking about the book, and I was like, well, I hated this. And that's true. But, like, I was being a little, like, I just really did not like it. I thought it was pretty bad. I am getting to the point where I kind of actively hate the story. The more I think about it, the more I realize how many missteps were made here. Mm-hmm. It's really, really rubbing me the wrong way, and just on several levels, the more time I spend thinking about it. So that being said, I don't know if there's really much point in continuing to go on about it, because I don't know if I'm going to take away anything else from it by now. Does anyone have any last-minute thoughts they wanted to get out there?
I guess the only thing that is in the back of my mind, and we'll talk about this when we get to it in the in the book of Windwing, but like, it's really funny how much, like, just timeline wise and like releases stuff of like what ground is covered here that is then later covered in other Wonder Woman stories, that like is almost like a direct, no, you're fucking stupid, watch this. Like, we'll get to that. So I think that would be a good thing to talk on. But like, there's as I was reading this the first time, I kept having a little bit of like no fucking way. I don't know. I'm curious about like the not kind of the fan reception of this, but I'm curious about like the creator reception of this, because I know of people reading the books and like they don't, but I want to know like what like other writers that not allowed to speak publicly, because obviously it's just bad form to just shit on a coworker, like, unless they're like an actual like piece of shit. But like I'm really curious to know what like the consensus around this was, and if any of like the ideas and stuff are like, oh no, we need to do this because this did it and fucked it up. Let's like, the premise of this is good. I still want to see, you know what I want to see? I even want to like fucking write, like, Ian, if we fucking write, well, Steve, we'll get you on instead, we'll do the script. What if Wonder Woman was in like The Walking Dead or some shit? And we'll just do the premise of this issue 1 where Wonder Woman takes the survivors to Themyscira and then rebuilds society, and then just do that. Like, there's no villains, there's nothing. It's just how does Wonder Woman rebuild society and what are the problems with that? And we do that as a what if series. No one will watch it, but it will be so good.
Okay. One last stupid thing, and like I was gonna let this go, but it's you just said no villains, and it legitimately brought a thing that like came up and it bothered the fuck out of me. Why the fuck is Cheetah still alive? Every other villain and hero is dead, but Cheetah is the one, like, it's never really been, like, a part of Cheetah's thing that she's immortal. Like, yeah, she gets her power from a god sometimes. Sometimes it's scientific experiments, but, like, what the fuck is Cheetah here? She there's, like, no reason. It's actively distracting. Because then it just gives her a voice that she should. It gives her like a shoulder to lean on that she probably shouldn't have anyway. I don't know. It was very confusing.
God,
Did not like that choice.
One of her hands is an actual Cheetah.
Yeah, like that's a really stupid experiment. Like okay, yeah, they did experiments on me after the world ended. Okay, yeah, maybe I could see that. Like they're trying to like beef up human anatomy with like animal splicing in order to survive. Like maybe they're trying to like give people furs. No, they did experiments on me. They grafted a cheetah head onto my arm. What the fuck? Why?
That's absolutely on brand though for like DC scientists though, right? It's like there's no actual practical application for this shit. They just decided, wouldn't it be fucking sick if we just made a man that had a kryptonite heart? Wouldn't that be fucking? That would just be fucking dope, bro. Like there's no practical application to this. Any of this. It's just all these geniuses just believe they're just like, oh yo, oh my god. All right, wait. What if we, you know, she's called Cheetah, yeah. We fucking put an actual Cheetah on a fucking No, bro! This is even better than your fucking King Shark plan. Oh! Give Gary a raise! He's kind of got a weird kind of sex thing going on, but it's okay!
Can I just... So, like, just, you know, shout out to Tearzu on this one. Cheetah's bite strength isn't really all that impressive as far as like the large cats go anyways. It's just, I don't know. It's actively dumb the more I'm thinking about it, so I want to wrap up. Let's go ahead and do our scores. I'm gonna give this 1.5 out of 5 Superman spines tied up with the lasso of truth that used as a mace. You know, it sounds like a sick move in, like, a fighting game.
You know what that panel reminded me of? That panel looked like that subgenre of, like, Dragon Ball fan art with, like, the really brutal killings of, like where, like, they're just holding, like, Vegeta's just holding Frieza's head and spine or some shit. Like, it's what it looked like. Oh, boy. For me, I guess I'll go with... again, I don't regret reading this. I'm glad my curiosity was satiated, but I'm kind of having the same thing Ian is where the more I talk about it with you all, the more I kind of find this like inherently kind of like the fucking not offensive, but just like a bad time. Like just to think about it's just not fun. It just makes me kind of uncomfortable. So I'm gonna give this one 2 out of 5. Steve Trevor about to fucking pull a gun on Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a similar mood to Ian on this, where it's just like I was kind of being facetious, just kind of egging on your idea that it was terrible. But no, the more we talk about it, the more I actively do think this is just a really terrible comic. So I will give this a 1 out of 5 mixed drinks of God's blood.
Nice. All right. So next week we're doing another one. Wow, what a way to start off the celebration of Wonder Woman month by talking about just a really bad Wonder Woman comic. It's Steve's fault though, but that's okay. So yeah. Next week, let's go a little bit easier. We'll go for something I think as a Wonder Woman stan, I'm gonna call mid-tier Wonder Woman. We're gonna go with Matt's pick next week because he should be able to join us next time, and that is Wonder Woman the Hikitia. I never know how to pronounce it. Like this is actively one of her most talked about stories, but no one ever actually talks about the title, so it's so hard to fucking look up because god damn it, I don't know that word. The Hikitia. The one where she fights Batman.
Neat.
Alright, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
I am the champion of the... No, Diana, no! Oh!
And I am the Harpy Spider Duster wiping this trash away.
Oof. Alrighty. And we are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.